Yes, everyone, you know what time it is. It's your boy Jack here, bringing back the podcast, and it is a one and only Michael from the fan show, from the chat, from the one and only Harris Army. He is here to have a good long chat with us about everything regarding the likes of the Tottenham squad. And this is sort of maybe a squad management episode, Michael, and it is sort of maybe a precursor, but something early to go into the summer here. And so we thought we'd bring you here because I know you enjoy these type of squad management, squad cleanup, as well as fixing the likes of Spurs in this type of manner. So how you
Yeah.
doing this morning?
Oh, everything is fine. Everything is fine. I just ate my breakfast. I have my monster drink ready, and I'm ready to slate Eric Dyer and bring in new center backs. That's the priority.
Clean up that center back drain. Dave, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Fresh faced. Can't wait to get into it. I love a bit of squad management, me.
Squad management is definitely going to be the theme of this one, everybody. But everybody, we are going to talk about the priority list this summer to maybe get Spurs back on track, because I feel like a lot of people, they are just sort of waiting for the season to end, and they do just want to see what sort of moves Spurs can make to sort of maybe to sort of cement themselves right back in sort of the Champions League places, or at least get back on sort of the right track. So Michael, we kind of have sort of a 5-point plan here, and it could be even further. But when it does come to sort of the squad, what do you think maybe are sort of the first steps to maybe kind of getting the squad back on track? And maybe what are the sort of the first things that you would do, let's say, if you were director of football, maybe if you were coming in this summer, what would be priority list for you?
Yeah. So, like the most important thing for me is, and listen, this will be obvious, right? But we need to establish what manager we are going to work under, right? Because you can work on squads all you want, but if the manager comes in and says, I need that type of player, that mold of player, and he has his own priorities, then you signing in new players is most likely not going to work, right? So first things first, I think we should establish maybe not like the name itself of the manager, but the type of manager, right? So if you are looking at the Arne Slot type manager, really expansive, offensive, and you are looking in that kind of spectrum like of managers, then you can maybe think about signings, right? But before we establish that, I don't think, other than maybe center backs, you shouldn't like sign players elsewhere, in my opinion.
So for you, it feels like maybe maybe asserting that style of play, figuring out what sort of manner you're going to go about, maybe kind of the formation, the shape, personnel, all comes from really the manager for you. So it's first figuring out that manager, and with that manager comes the style of play and all those things, and
Yep.
then from there you can assess the squad, you think?
Yes, exactly.
Mm.
Basically, the names that have been mentioned, right? For example, Madison, I think we spoke about him on one of the fan shows, right? I think he's really brilliant as a shadow striker, number 10 role, right? But he can play on the wings, but not really to that like good of a level as he is in a number 10 position. So
Mm.
imagine if we buy Madison before we bring in a new manager, right? But then the manager decides not to play a number 10, right? Like Conte did, for example. Because I think last summer we were also linked with Madison, as reports said that
Yeah.
Conte declined the transfer, right?
Hmm.
And from his perspective, with the formation that he had in mind with playing, I'm honestly not that surprised that it happened. But it's just another like point in that direction, right? You need to establish the style and the formation and the type of manager, then you can start bringing in players.
Mm. And
That's
it's, if anything, James Madison could be sort of an indication of what we just heard yesterday, Dave, about the other Dave, David Webb, gave us a bit of an insight on the likes of Daniel Levy, and he does a bit of player identification. So it wouldn't be that surprising, actually, if James Madison is just a guy that's caught Mr. Levy's eye, and he's just sort of always offering, him to whatever manager comes to the door. Like, hey, I really like this guy, James Madison. I really want to get him. Do you want to get him? Want to jump in on with me? It's like jumping in on a tab at a bar, Dave. But what do you think? Priority list this summer? Are you with kind of Michael that maybe establishing the manager, establishing the identity, establishing sort of the style of play is first order of business?
Yeah, I think I agree with Michael. The first order of business has to be the manager, right? Michael's absolutely spot on where, you have to look at what formation he wants to play, what style of play he wants. But once you do that, then, Jack, you sort of, and I also agree with Michael that like, for me, you can actually go and sign centre backs regardless of the manager because they're going to need centre backs in here regardless. So for me, that's one bit of future planning you can actually get onto, because whether it's going to be a back three or a back four, it doesn't matter. This club needs centre backs, and it's a priority position, because once you address centre backs, you're going to see a much better standard of product on the pitch. But you're also going to see Tottenham in games where they don't have to score 3-4 goals every week, and when they do, we're going to be guaranteed to win that game rather than maybe come out with a point or a disappointing defeat. I think centre backs you can get onto straight away, because any manager worth their sort will be looking at Tottenham and saying they need centre backs. But once you bring in that manager, Jack, there's a number of priorities they sort of need to sort out once they get in here. You're looking at the players out on loan. What players out on loan do they want to sort of keep, and what players out on loan do they want out? Then you look at the squad. What players does he want to keep? What players does he want to loan out? So there's a lot of decisions that he's sort of got to make when he gets here. Also, there's a bunch of contract renewals up over the next 2 years. He's also got to sort of decide what players there he wants to keep and what players he wants to get rid of, because if there's any players whose contracts are up over the next 2 years that he doesn't want, start getting rid of them now before you end up losing value on them, or before they end up saying, no, do you know what, I'll hang around here for another year even if I'm not playing, and I'll leave on a free. So for me, there's a lot of decisions for this guy when he gets in here to do, I think. But Michael's right, the first thing you got to do is identify the manager first.
Once you establish that manager, though, Dave, just to press further, what's maybe something you would sooner do? Is it maybe look at the players that you already have and maybe figure out which ones, maybe feel like are worth keeping around, kind of like the ones you said, maybe are either, coming near the end of their contract or just coming back from loan. There's so many different types of players, right? At Spurs, where they're kind of been around way too long, or maybe they can sort of, make an adjustment to a new shape. It's just kind of, there's so many different kind of misfit toys, I feel like, here at this club. So what would you do if once the manager gets in? So we've established that's the first step. What's kind of maybe then the manager's second order of business, or even the manager's first order of business? Is he going to be already giving the director of football his transfer list of players, or should the manager be kind of looking at the squad, looking at some of the loanees and seeing which ones are maybe worth keeping first?
No, I think you've got to free up the squad, Jack. I think that's your biggest priority. I think you've got the experienced players out on loan, like Sergio Regular and Ndombele, Lo Celso, Winks, people like that. He's got to decide more or less straight away what players need to go, because they can't come back here and keep clogging up the wage bill. So you've got to ship out them. Then you look at your squad and you got to ship out everything that you don't want or that you don't think you can work with. You can't have people hanging on that you're maybe a bit dubious about, because that's where we see the infighting amongst the squad happening. That's where you see the manager sort of being undermined like we've seen in the past. So he's got to clear that out. Once he's made sort of room in his squad, that frees up more of a wage budget. It frees up more of a transfer budget for the guy as well, which then expands his options. Maybe means he can get in better players than what he first thought, because he's got a bigger budget, bigger wage budget. So for me, that is his first priority. Also, he has to look at what youths he feels he can work with, what youths he can't. And if this guy's going to be here for 5 years, the youths that he feels he can't work with, sell them on. There's no point in persisting trying to loan them and that if there's no future here for them either. And I know it sounds ruthless, but this is where we need to be as a football club right now. So he also has to sort that out. Once all that is sorted out, then he knows exactly, we have to meet quotas like the homegrown quota. So he'll know, okay, maybe I have to go and look at 1 or 2 English players, get them in here, and then also look at the rest. But while he's doing that, he can also give his targets to the club and say, look, start making contact, start working on them. But this is the direction I want to go in. So for me, that's what he's got to do. He's got to free up the space first, get rid of players, and then that accelerates then our transfer business and opens up targets for me.
And then by freeing up the space in the squad, in my opinion, Michael, then he's able to figure out which sort of positions he probably thinks, there's nothing here that I can work with or sort of adapt, or somebody that I can experiment with. I'm going to need to go to the transfer market, right? I'm going to need to go to sort of a, to get somebody that can play that role. And I think with any manager, there's always some type of position. There's always some sort of kind of role in the squad that is very unique, very particular, and usually demands a lot of a player. And it might be the case that Spurs already have a guy that can do it. We have Harry Kane, Sonny, players like that, Benton Gore, etc., who are brilliant players that maybe can, occupy this crucial role in the system. But let's just say one of those roles happens to be a center back, and maybe Romero isn't enough, and we probably know Romero isn't exactly enough, and then he might need to dip into the transfer market and sort of look for someone someone very particular, someone very unique. So I'm glad that you said the first step was sort of identify the manager, identify the style of play. But do you agree with Dave kind of that you have to sort of kind of take a real sort of like comb through the whole squad before you even kind of hand in even the transfer list, when you think, Michael?
Yeah, and that's also backs the point of how important it is to get the manager early. So if we
He
get the
has all this
manager in
time.
August, right, he doesn't have the time to do that, right, because the season starts around the corner, right? If we get him in June, just as the season finishes, right, he has all the time to assess the squad. And I think what this Spurs squad needs, then not only the squad that's here, but also the under 21s, under 18s, and the loanies, it needs a bit of ruthlessness, right? We need to ship out the deadwood, and it's really important, right? This squad already has been refreshed by Fabio Paratici, right? I know he's not been the perfect director of football, and all the criminal stuff aside, right? But
Do you think he left us? Do you think he got us on the right track? Do you think he started, like he was starting us in the right direction at least? Do you think he was headed in the right direction, Michael?
yeah,
Just as a side note.
I think when you look at our squad from 2 years ago, right, when he was appointed around 2 years ago, or maybe
I think it was a
not
little
2
less than
years,
that, but
yeah,
yeah.
a bit less than that. But if you look at that squad and the squad that we have now, I think he succeeded in first making the squad a lot younger. In my opinion, we've signed a lot of players that can be prospects, like Poro, Kulusevski, Bentancur. All those guys are under 25s, right? And
Yeah.
he basically got rid of the players that were a bit stale in the squad, like Aurier, Sissoko. And I guarantee you, if somebody wanted to buy Ndombele, Winks, Lo Celso, and those guys, right, I guarantee you that those guys would have been sold, right? The issue is that which we raised many times, right, that Europe is poor in terms of football clubs. Like if you compare how much money other leagues spend compared to Premier League, it's mad, right? And the issue is because people say, listen, Real Madrid spends money, right? Bayern spends money, Juventus spends money. Well, maybe not now, but in general, the issue is Juventus is not going to buy Lo Celso. Real Madrid is not going to buy Ndombele. They don't need those guys. Those guys are not good enough for those teams, right? So to offload Ndombele to Europe, you need to look at the teams a bit lower down the pecking order, and the gap in terms of spending power between Real, Barca, and Athletic Bilbao, or well, that's not a good club, sorry. But those type of clubs, Sevilla, Valencia, those clubs are absolutely poor.
Yeah.
They are on the verge of bankruptcy, right?
They don't have money to
cannot
waste
afford,
anymore.
yeah. They don't have money to waste on the guys like Ndombele, right?
And they don't have money, I feel like, to spend freely and, take risks on. They're going to be continuing to do loans. They're going to do sort of free transfers. And until they maybe in some way recoup any sort of the money that they might have had previously. But yeah, you're absolutely right. What happened with COVID? I mean, majority of these clubs pretty much lost like 90% of their revenue. Majority of their revenue comes from match day sort of kind of goings and maybe tickets, as well as sort of, the Champions League nights, right? On when maybe they go up against a big English team, in Seville. That's when, they really do make, the majority of their money. And when that all went away, that basically kissed away their sort of 20 million pound transfer budget on a winger or anything like that. Now they can only spend 5 or 6, or they have to, do it with a loan with an option to buy. And even that option to buy is probably not even very much, and staged in different ways. But sorry, Dave, I cut you off. I know you're going to come in.
No. I just wanted to say on that, I think, you make a great point about the European market, but we're at a point now, we can't hang around and wait for the European market to start booming again.
Of course.
We can't do that. At the end of the day now, we're at a point now where you just got to start being ruthless. If there's no one interested and no one wants to pay the fee or the wages, fine. Cut the contract, send them off.
Exactly.
That's what we should have done with some of these guys a long time ago. I understand maybe why we were loaning them out, to see if maybe we could get them going, recoup some money for them, this, that, and the other. But the reality is now it's getting to the point where, it's affecting our transfer business, right? You've got Ndombele who's on colossal wages. That's wages that you can give to another top target coming in here, and stuff like that. And it's getting to a point where it's just too costly, and it's that bad that you've got the squad still full of deadwood and stuff like that, So we're at a point now where you've just got to cut your losses, accept that you've misread the situation, you haven't done your homework because you don't have a scouting department in place, etc., and cut your losses. Because if we keep hanging around for the European market, this is going to take longer and longer and longer to do. That's why you need to do what Fabio Paratici done when he first got here. Oh, are you? Okay, no problem. Can't find a club. You're not in any rush to leave. Right, rip up your contract. Now go and find yourself a club. And that's the policy we need to adapt. We bought these players in here on big fees and gave them the wages they want. They let us down. There's no point in continuing to pay them or even continue to pay a percentage, and other clubs are benefiting across Europe for it. Just cut contracts, get them gone so we can actually move on as a football club.
Yeah, that comes back to my initial point, right? We need ruthlessness. We need to, establish you are part of the squad, you are not part of the squad, right? It's. I often say about like people lacking the ability to see the whole spectrum and being from 0 to 1. This time the case is different, right? You need to be 0 or 1. You either stay or you go, and that's it, right? And honestly, if the new manager comes in and tells like, listen, Højbjerg is not part of my squad, shame. I want this manager to be supported with whatever the guy needs, right? Whatever his decision is about the squad, unless it's a ridiculous one, like he says, I don't want Kane, Son, and Kulusevski, right? In that case, no, of course, let's not go to that extreme, right? But as long as the decision is like logical, we want to. I want us to support this guy, right? Us as a club. And listen, if he deems a certain player not suitable for his squad, shame. We try to move him on. If we cannot move him on, we try to loan him out if the contract is still going, right? And if the contract is ending, you either rip up the contract or you sell him for peanuts, right? That's it. That's what this squad needs, right? And the same thing goes with all the loanees. Pretty much, I don't want any of them back, maybe except for Region. I think Region has been done a bit dirty with the homegrown quota and the oversize of the squad in the wingback areas. I still think he is useful for us, but all the other guys, I don't want them. Don't want
even
them
a Djed Spence or maybe even
sorry,
Brian Hill, as well. I think Brian Hill, a lot of people, is a divisive one, especially because he's an expensive one, right? He was brought in for a hefty price, and a lot of people feel like he needs to kind of start paying that back. Whereas I'm curious on those two. I think I'm with you. Sergio Region, I don't even know, Michael. I'm actually maybe in the opposite case. I feel like Region, I really loved Region, and I want him to do well if he came back to Spurs, but I'd be maybe more surprised if he was immediately given us a spot back in the squad, mostly because his loan did not really go too well. And that does maybe think that Spurs would then need to either repair his career or they might just kind of cut ends, maybe just sort of cut ties now with the likes of him, because of course he had huge injuries at Atletico, but it also seemed like he never really won the favor at all of Simeone at any stage, didn't really play very well when he got back into things. So if he were to come to Spurs, I've said this, I think yesterday, I think it would be like a Clement Longley situation where you'd be kind of expecting him to sort of, have to get back into the shake of things, start to have to, flush out some mistakes. Longley did the same thing where he hadn't been playing for quite a long time, hadn't been playing regularly, right, for some time. And Region would sort of be doing the same thing where he would sort of try to get back into the flow, get some confidence back. And while I love the guy and I think he's good enough maybe for us to give him that chance, I'm curious whether Spurs are going to give him that chance and whether the manager is. Brian Hill and Djed Spence are curious ones because Djed Spence has been struggling out on loan in the likes of Rennes. I think he was just left out of the squad entirely out in their most recent match, I think, just as a recent example. And then Brian Hill is getting minutes here and there. He's, I think, being used actually, quite a lot, not often as, a regular starter, but he starts, then comes off the bench, kind of dips in and out, and seems to be used at least by any manager. But will he kind of, continue to have that role, or will the next manager just sort of, again, kind of see him as sort of not really worth, kind of his time? I'd be curious.
on them players. Look, for me, Sergio Reguilon, I'll be honest, I would keep the guy. I think I'd rather him be a backup to someone like a Doji than a Ryan Sessegnon. Ryan Sessegnon has
Oh,
offered
definitely.
absolutely zero to this football club, going forward and defensively, which is why many people wanted to keep him. He's been found suspect on wanting this season defensively. For me, I'd much rather have a Reguilon there because I like what Reguilon done when he was here. At least he was getting forward. At least he was decent on the ball. And I take your point, Jack, that his low move hasn't worked out and he's been injured and stuff like that. But for me, I'd much rather have him competing with someone like a Doji than a Sessegnon, because the reality is Doji's going to come straight in here over Sessegnon and walk straight into the team. Whereas with Reguilon, at least there's a bit of competition there. And even when we got to realize we're a club that tries to compete on all four fronts, right? We've got cup competitions and that. And we've seen with Sessegnon when we roll him out there, he's not good enough even against the weaker teams. And I'd much rather have a Reguilon out there in them games, actually producing something and being able to help maybe some of the youngsters that I'm hoping will actually start getting opportunities in some of these cup games. I'd much rather have a Reguilon in the squad than I would a Ryan Sessegnon. And look, Reguilon's not a bad player. You just look at some of the list of the clubs he's played for. Real Madrid, Sevilla, on loan Atletico Madrid, Tottenham. He's not a bad player. So for me, I'd much rather keep him. When I move on to, because even with Perisic, right, you don't know whether Perisic wants to hang around, but I'd keep him and have him up as a backup left wing. But we'll get on to that in a while. And when it comes to Djed Spence, I think for me, there's talent there. He just needs to be honed. It needs to be the right low move. And I don't blame him.
Or the right manager to come in.
I don't blame it on him not working out in France. At the end of the day, Tottenham have a history of finding bad loan moves for a lot of our players. That's why you see a lot of youths come through being loaned out and they're getting washed up within that sort of system because their loan moves are not really handpicked. It's sort of, if whoever's interested, just send them there rather than actually handpicking and looking at clubs that's actually going to develop them, use them in their favorite position, work with them and stuff like that. So for me, I would much rather loan Djed Spence out again and see what he can do. Because, if we get a manager in and he wants to play fullbacks, Porro ain't your guy for right back. Yeah. So you're going to have to convert him to a right winger. And then that means you need someone else that can play right back. And for me, I would look to maybe keep Djed Spence or loan him out again, depending on what the system and the formation is. And when it comes to Brian Gilmessi, yes, you heard me, Gilmessi, for me, look, this guy, right? I know a lot of fans are divided on this guy, and I get it. But the reality is, what are fans calling for now? Energy, people to press the ball, etc., etc. Well, Brian Hill was doing that before we decided to ship him out on loan.
He was doing that under new now.
We didn't need to bring a Danjuma in here on loan to be able to do that. You had a guy off the bench that was making an impact off the bench every time you brought him on. He had a good game against Palace. There's a player in there, and it's just waiting on the right manager to work with him and develop him. That guy, Gil, telling you now, he can play calm, he can play left, he can play right, in my opinion. So for me, he's another one that I would look to hopefully for the new manager to come in here and actually work with the guy and hone in on his skills and stuff like that. So you're looking at some of these players, they just need the right guy, the right manager to work with them, and there's a player there. As for Winks, Ndombele, Lo Celso, Rodin, I don't want to see any more of them. They've all had their opportunity. They've failed to grasp it. Mikel Arteta and Guardiola say the same thing. In order for you to build a winning team, you need good people first, because good people will follow. They'll do what you ask them to do. The Celso's proven, and with reports, he ain't a great character. And Ndombele as well, not a great character. You don't need these guys around here. We already said enough in the dressing room. So just ship them on. They've all had their chance, them guys.
Well, some people say, Michael, that Joel Ward is still looking for Gilmessi over in Crystal Palace and Selhurst Park, but you are going to say something more serious, so go ahead.
First thing, to back David's point about the trash loans that we do. Look at Troy Parrott, right? We've shipped him into, I think he plays for Preston North End, right? The team that we played in the FA Cup, right? They are absolutely up until half of the season, they were absolutely shocking, scoring no goals. He wasn't getting any chances. They were, they weren't really conceding, but the team was really stale. at least like when you look at Dane Scarlett, I think his loan is kind of okay in Portsmouth. He gets his chances, he scored some important goals for them. So in that case, he is developing okay, right? But he is like, he's the grand jewel of that academy, right? With Troy Parrott, it clearly seems like Troy Parrott is 21 or 22 as far as I remember, right? He needs like a really like developing loan, like where he gets to play the first string, not be a backup, not be in a stale team. He needs to be sent to a team that's really vigorous and gives him a lot of chances, etc., right?
I think he had a
And
very unlucky injury, if I'm not mistaken, this season.
yeah, that too, right? But also to back myself, because I said I don't want to see any of the loaney guys coming back, right? It's kind of a subconscious thing I did, but I kind of like separated the Wings, Lo Celso, and Dombele, Rodon guys from Spence and Hill, right? Spence and Hill I still treat as part of the squad. Whereas with the other guys, since they've been so long on the loans, right? Most of them for a year or even more, right? I don't really treat them as part of our squad. That's why I don't want them here, right? With Spence and Hill, I completely back what David said. I think Spence has backs of talent. I think he's still young enough to mold him into whatever system you need him to. I know he's predominantly playing as a right wing back, but I think he can do a job as a right back. And with Region also, I think Region has the flexibility to go from a wing back to a left back, which he proven even in our team, right? Jose Mourinho was playing him as a left back, whereas Conte played him as a left wing back, and he was clearly better than Sessegnon, right? That's not even a debate. And with Gilmessi, I actually think, looking at Hill, right? I as far as I know, his major position is left winger, right? We never pretty much played him there. He always is being played as a right winger, as a substitution to Kulusevski, right? I know, and listen, he's a divisive character mainly because of the price tag, right? We kind of sold a cult hero, however you want to call Ramera, the Rabona merchant, whatever, right? We shipped him away, gave Sevilla 25 million, as far as I remember, and got in a kid, right? If he was bought for 5 million, nobody would bat an eye with his loans and, etc.,
That's a
right?
good point.
The issue is that we wasted a lot of money on the guy, right? So we either try to ship him out for the similar money that we bought him in, or we try to develop the guy, right? I'm in the camp of developing the guy because I actually think he, as David mentioned, has a lot of energy, a lot of pressing. The guy can work on the ball. The issue is that he, like, it's a bit of an overused statement, but he really needs to go to the gym, right? The guy really needs to bulk up a bit because, like, he's just going to get muscled off the ball in the Premier League, right? So that's the only thing that he has to work on, technique wise, pace wise, energy wise. He's there, right? He just needs a bit more like muscle mass to not get muscled off the ball so easily, right?
I think probably you're right in that regard, but at the same time, I think he is, what he is. He's bored with what he has.
Yeah.
Like, he's not exactly gonna just sort of like summon muscle all of a sudden. I think there have been a few interviews with him actually about it, and he sort of has said like he's tried his very best to sort of gain the muscle that he can, and it's just sort of how he's built. Like, a lot of people just sort of have a ridiculous sort of ability to just not look like a Goretzka or not look like a Lewandowski and those sort of players, right? And I think he's just built that way, but at the same time he seems to sort of take advantage of it, and he knows himself, where you did see, right, the more minutes he got, the more comfortable he got with the likes of the speed of the Premier League, with the likes of the speed of the defenders. I made that Joel Ward, sort of joke for like a real reason, and the fact that he did make a guy who's about, what is he, 6'3". He's built like an absolute rocket, like Ward. He could absolutely knock me out of the stands if he wanted to. But Gilmessi just absolutely sent him flying off the pitch with just one little body hesitation, with just one little feint. And that's sometimes what it is. I think people do maybe mistake that if you do have like pretty much near top quality sort of technical skill, you don't necessarily need always the strength, the pace, whatever it may be. You just need sort of that body hesitation. You need that sort of just extra bit of intelligence, that extra bit of genius that just sort of outsmarts players. And I think what we saw from Brian Hill is that while very raw, while obviously still a kid in the way that he sort of plays, kind of plays like a kid, he has sort of that extra genius that just you don't really teach players. And in fact, you can teach a kid to go to the gym. You can't really teach genius. And that's what I think he actually has at this moment. And he is able to sort of, from what I was able to gather, the more minutes you gave him, it felt like the more dangerous he got and the more he started to figure people out and the more he started to kind of cause problems. And the moment we gave him 90 minutes against Crystal Palace, near damn man of the match. And it felt like if we just kept giving him more games, we would have probably had started seeing, you know, kind of more of an actual semblance of a kid that doesn't necessarily need to be going to the weight room. He actually just has sort of that genius and that skill.
The thing is, right, with someone like Gilmessi, he's never going to be an Adama Traore, right? He's never going to be that. You look at his body type, a guy like him, if he puts on too much weight or too much muscle, it slows down his feet. And that's just the reality of it. Someone like Gilmessi, I agree with you, Jack. For me, it's more about game time with this guy. It's clear he's got the technical ability. It's clear that he's got a footballing brain. It's clear that he wants to work hard. Look at him out chasing down off the ball he done when he was coming off the bench and stuff like that. So for me, it's more so, I think there's more I think with game time, he can learn maybe different ways to hold up the ball, different ways to counteract, not maybe having that strength. A bit like Luka Modric, right? If he looked a bit at like what Luka Modric, centre midfielder, one of the smallest centre midfielders I've ever seen. Look at him. How does no one ever get near him? Positioning, first touch. Watch his first touch. It's always away from the marker, always away from him, always. And Gilmessi can learn things like that, but that will come with game time. He can also look at maybe a bit like Lionel Messi, you know? What does he do when he gets on the ball, when he's up against bigger, stronger guys? Mm-hmm. Look what he does. Learn to manipulate the ball, keep the ball sort of away from them and stuff like that. Make them foul you. Become very tricky. So there's a lot of things that Gil can actually learn without actually having the ball up. Because I agree with you, Jack. I don't think you're going to see much more muscle on the guy whatsoever. I think he could put on a bit. But once he puts on too much, it takes away from his light feet and how quick he is. So for me, it's more about game time with Gil than anything else.
Yeah. So, well, maybe let me correct myself a bit. I don't mean that he needs to bulk up like Adama Traore, right? Well, no, even if you look at Messi, right? I know he's really small, but the guy is actually ripped. Okay. Like if you look at Messi, right, he's built like a truck, but he's just small, right? So like the thing with Messi is that even like he has a silky touch, absolutely. Like, you know, to get near him is an absolute miracle, right? But even if you get near him, you kind of need to foul him to get the ball off him, right? With Hill, what I've seen is he either skins a man or gets just shoulder barged of the ball, right? And the issue is that shoulder barges are not a foul, right? So he just loses possession in that sense, right? So with Messi, what I think is missing is, as I said, he either skins a man, or if he is a bit more, you know, muscly, then it means that he cannot just, you cannot just shove him off the ball. You have to actually work to get the ball off him, so he can then fight for fouls, you know, win penalties, do all those magnificent things that other players do, right? So again, it's not about, you know, gaining like a shit ton of muscle and being a rolling steam train, right? It's just about maybe being a bit more stable, right? With you know, muscle structure, you know, proper, you know, grounded skeletal structure with, you know, with a lot of muscle on it, a lot of like well-built muscle on it, you get a lot of stability and, you know, and hardiness, right? It's really hard to knock you off the ball with easy, like, you know, shoulder barges, or, you know, or even shoving, right? Because like if you shove a player but you don't actually foul him, like, you know, you just do those like movements that players do, right? It doesn't count as a foul unless the player falls down, you know, and it's clearly visible for the referee that the player was fouled, right? So that's what I meant with.
I think on that, just quickly, Michael, I think the one thing where Gil could be clever on that is get his body between the man and the ball. So what I mean by that is sort of turn your back. If you see the shoulder coming in, be aware of it and turn your back like that, so it's more into the back. Then you grab your free kicks. That's what use your low center of gravity. That's what a lot of the smaller players do. They use the low center of gravity. They see tackles coming in, they get their body between man and ball, and they take the foul. And I think, look, again, we're speaking about stuff that will come to Gil with more game time.
Shall we move on to potentially a big problem area for, I think, the manager, unless, we have some particular players that I think, we want to address, because we do need to talk extensively, lads, about this center back. And I think what we brought up first, right, when we were talking about the list of priorities, bring in that manager first. That manager then has to sort of take a huge sort of assessment of the squad. I imagine he looks at the attack. He's like, great, looks, spot on. Needs maybe a player there or two, but not probably too picky. Midfield, he's probably looking at it. Yeah, got some hardworking midfielders there. Maybe need one or two things there. Kind of wing backs. It's sort of, again, a similar story. He looks at the defense. He probably needs a puke bucket, I would imagine, when looking at it. And so I think when he gets up to it, he's probably going to want to get rid of all of them, kind of like a Spurs fan. He probably wants to get rid of most of them, maybe bar Romero. But that's probably not realistic, because I do believe the center back drain, that we have at this moment in time is quite clogged here, everybody. And so let me kind of, list it out for you. The likes of what we have in this moment in time for what we go into the summer with is Dyer, Sanchez, Tanganga, Rodon, Romero, and Davies. So that would be 6 different center backs. Of course, if we wanted to get rid of all of them, that would get rid of 5 of them, but it feels like that's difficult to do, and that feels like that's a very, very busy summer. So what I imagine is potentially possible is actually getting rid of probably 3, because Rodon, I think, is already basically a foot out the door. We've been trying to probably move him on, and so whatever we can do to try to get him out of here is what we will do. But then it's sort of up to the likes of Sanchez, Dyer, Tanganga, Davies. Which one of those are we going to maybe move on? Sanchez, probably another likely one that everybody wants us to move on, but he has supposedly, made it quite difficult for us, to get him out, either due to his own form and his own sort of kind of incompetence, or also for the fact that, maybe he is, maybe not really been given any sort of, real offers, again, due to his own form. But Michael, maybe I'll bring you in first. What do you think? Like 3 center backs, is that possible to get rid of this summer? And what's your 3?
I'm kind of torn because I think you've already asked me a similar question on one of the call-ins, right? And I think the answer I gave back then is I don't really think that like shipping out 3 is possible unless like our ownership decides they can do it, right? I know it sounds much simple and much stupid, right, what I said, but basically like shipping out 2 is not really that big of a revolution, not really that big of a deal, right? But when you start going to 3s and 4s, it's really like a proper rebuild of the whole, part of the pitch, right? So I think it is possible. I think it is needed too, right? I think we need to ship out 3. I just don't think 3 will happen. I think we'll ship out 2 and we will bring in 2. That's my opinion of what I think will happen. What I want to happen is us shipping out 3 or 4, right?
I like the pushback.
Let's be honest.
I like the realism. I like the realism. Dave, what do you think? Do you think it's... I agree. The distinction between what we want, what we think is logical. Like I was trying to balance. It's like, obviously I want all 5 to go, but it's like 3, like surely 3, like they could get rid of 3, but it's like, well, I mean, that still could be too much for Spurs, considering how we always, never give them credit for being ruthless, because they never are. And those sort of things. Do we expect them to be ruthless this summer all of a sudden? Likely not. Like the money wouldn't be on them to be that way. So is Michael right? More likely 2. Maybe even fewer than 3.
Look,
it's sad. He's right. I don't think it makes much of a dent if you get rid of 2, because let's say you get rid of Sanchez and
Dyer,
Rodon. Get rid of Sanchez and Rodon. You still have Davies and you still have Tanganga and you still have Dyer as sort of backups. You get rid of Dyer and Tanganga. You still have Sanchez and you still have Rodon as backups. It's not, it's not, none of it really makes a dent.
I'll tell you what, if the club are serious, You get rid of 4 or 5 of them this summer, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
that's
That's it. At the end of the day, right? What good is getting rid of half of the shit and keeping the other half? Because that other half are still going to have to play cup games. They're going to have to play either Europa League or Conference League if we're qualifying them. And we know exactly what to expect from them. They ain't keeping clean sheets in them games. And then we get injuries and suspensions, and they're still having the part to play. And we're going to be sitting here moaning about them again next year, costing us and costing us and costing us. For me, if this club is serious, you look at it, right? Joe Rodon already 1 foot out the door. Take 5 million and send them off to Timbuktu if you have to. I don't care. No point. He's already out the door, right?
Yep.
You got Japhet Tanganga, who I actually feel a little bit sorry for, because there was a Sky documentary that they done over the transfer window. I think it was last summer, or was it the summer before that? I think it was last summer. And all through that documentary, Tanganga was pushing for a move to Milan. He wanted out of that. Tottenham pulled that loan, pulled that move because they didn't get anyone else in here. So for me, I think you'll see Tanganga looking to get out of this club again this summer. So there's 2. Sanchez, what's the point?
You have players who don't want to be here. That's a good point, actually.
Right? But then moving on to Sanchez, right? You've got a guy that was booed coming off the bench against AC Milan when we were chasing the game. You got a guy booed against Newcastle, rightly so in my opinion, deserves it, right? And he's not good enough. We've seen how costly he is. How many people sat there in the summer and says, Dave, shut up, he's a good backup. Look at the 7 clean sheet stat that we brought up. It's like, yeah, against relegation teams, and some of them he came off the bench, he didn't even start. And it's kind of like, we got to stop with this bullshit. We know how costly he is, especially when the crunch time comes around. No point in persisting with him or keeping him here. Eric Dyer has completely shown himself up this season. However, I fear he will remain at this club, but if we're serious, you get him gone too. These guys have to go. Ben Davies, I think, is one that probably will stay. But again, I think he has to go. I think he's severely limited. Yeah. So for me, if this club is serious and you don't want the same problems to persist, you get rid of these guys and you go and find 3 centre-backs to bring in here. Lenglet 1 and go and find another 2. Because if not, the same problems will still be here. The same problems will persist. Then it'll shred, more questions on our recruitment, which we're never going to get out of as long as these guys are costing us on the pitch. It gets the manager questioned straight away and doesn't give him any time to work with anything or maybe settling his feet in on the table, because these guys are playing and they're costing them. If they're not playing, we go into the cup competitions to get knocked out there, which then, puts more pressure on the manager, this, that, and the other. So there's no point. They are a huge problem at this football club, and a lot of they actually make a lot of some of the other stuff we do look shit as well, because no one ever gets time to settle at this football club. So for me, there's no point, Jack, and I get about being logical, I get about what we can and we can't do, but I'm not going through another season next season of this same shit. Well, because the reality is, even if these guys do hang around, they're going to play, and that's it. And they're going to absolutely implode our season like they've done for the last 3-4 seasons. The warning signs have been there. Sanchez and Dyer played a hell of a lot under Jose Mourinho. They played under Conte as well. They're costly. Get them gone. I get what's realistic and everything else, but we're at a point now where we've overhauled the forward line at times. We've overhauled the midfield at times. Overhaul that back line. Yes. If you want Champions League football back here, you want fans to get behind this club and go in cup runs, you have to do it this summer.
Yeah. Yes, Dave. And actually, I agree with you. Like, we all try to be, imaginative and, we want things, but we also have to, put a bit of dose of realism into it. But when it comes to the defense, realism doesn't really matter too much. It's like a house that's on fire. You can't just be like, we'll get to it, every, now and again, maybe we'll throw a few buckets of water now and we'll see how it goes, like sort of thing. Like, you got to address it as soon as possible. You got to bring in the big hose. You got to start cleaning it and start being able to just address the situation. It's a burning house. You can't just sort of take your time. You can't go about it with a dose of realism or something like that. You got to just basically go all to the wall, trying to save basically what is a crumbling foundation of what is your team right now. And that's where maybe Spurs have to just that's their dose of reality, really. It's just accepting that the defense is just in capitulation mode. And also as well, we're near what could be relegation finish of a defense. Like, we are basically in the depths of what is, I think, what, fifth, fourth, approaching basically worst defense in the league. We are on the track to basically concede well over 60 goals in a Premier League season, like averaging more than 2.5 goals conceded per game. It's damn near relegation standard of what that is. That is basically a burning house of a defense. And I think that's where, Dave, you're more than spot on, because we try to be realistic about, maybe they can ship on 3, but it's like, I think 3 is a bare minimum then, the way you put it that way, because it's like the 3 is the one. 3, in my opinion, makes a significant dent. And because this is how I see it, I think if you get rid of Rodon, if you get rid of Dyer, and you get rid of Sanchez, that leaves you with Tanganga, Davies, Romero. Tanganga, of course, occupies that homegrown role. And again, you're sort of abusing him and using him as a pawn in that whole scheme. And I understand that. But he's not as much of a problem player as I think the rest of them are. And then Davies, we say kind of the same thing. Like, he's a bit vanilla, but he is not exactly much of a problem player like the other ones. And you still get to get rid of the guys that we know have been here far, far too long, or just simply aren't good enough as well. And I do feel like, Dave, you can't go about it with a dose of realism or something. It's not like the midfield or the wingbacks or the strikers or whatever, where you have to bring in a bunch of context. You're just dealing with shit, and you got to clean it up.
Yeah. So, like, when I look at this defense, right, it might sound stupid, but I have a tier list of who to get out first, right? Look at this attention seeker. Sorry, but come on, he ignores me 24 hours straight, right? And when I'm doing a podcast, he is doing eights around my legs, and now he's jumping on the other desk. Sorry, but I had to mention it, right?
Maybe he's a Dyer defender.
I think he fancies being a centre back. Stick a jersey on him.
No, but coming back to the main topic, right? When you look at our center backs, right, I sort of have a tier list of who to get rid of first, right? And this tier list starts with Dyer. I don't want this guy playing a single minute more after this season. I want this guy out of the club, right? I think he is the sole reason why this defense is so bad, right? Because everyone else around him has to cover for his mistakes. He's a defender who never puts in tackles, right? He's not that great when it comes to like fighting for balls in the air, unless he's extremely static, defending 10 men behind the ball, right? So this guy is just not a good defender. Get him out, right? That's it for me. Sanchez is the second one. Sanchez is like, his time is done. I think not only with himself, with his mentality in this club, right? He doesn't want to play for us. That's one thing, right? But the fans are done with him, and that's it, right? If the fans are done with you, and every single time you come onto the pitch, or or you start the game, you are getting booed, that's it, right? That's over for you. So those are the two priorities I want out, right? And then with the other guys, I think like Romero stays, right? Romero obviously stays. Davis should be shipped out, but maybe not necessarily this summer, right? As you said, he's
sad
like
as it may be, he's the second best center back in the squad.
Yeah,
That's how low the standard is.
Yeah, he's the best of the street bunch, right? So Davis for me stays. Tanganga, it depends on whether he wants to stay or not, right? Because if the guy really wants to move on, and listen, I wouldn't be surprised he's like 23 or 24. If you want to start your career, it's time to start your career, right? You cannot wait for the starting spot in your home team like forever, right? If he starts, getting game time at 30, that's it. He will be another Dyer for us, right? With all due respect to the guy. So I would keep him because of I still think like the guy has something in him, and he needs game time similar maybe to what Gilmessi. If he's like thrown into the gutter, when we are like 2 goals down, to stabilize the ship, right? And it's a stressful environment, stressful situation. That's maybe not the best spot to throw someone who haven't played for 2 months or more, right? Or 3 months.
Let's
or
be
4
honest,
months.
he doesn't exactly have a lot of role models in front of him in the first 11 either.
Yeah.
I mean, I think when I saw him slipping all the time against Leicester, I think it's just because he's been, learning from Sanchez too much, that he just was doing the same thing.
And the last one is Rodon, right? Rodon needs to be shipped out before Tanganga, right? So it's Dyer, Sanchez, Rodon, Tanganga, and Davis. That's the priority. Dyer is the priority. Davis is the least priority for me, right? And if we get off 2 or 3 top ones, so Dyer, Sanchez, Rodon, I'm really fine with it, right? I'm absolutely fine with it. If we get rid of those three, if you get only rid of like Dyer and Sanchez, we need more, but it's still good that we got rid of Dyer and Sanchez, right? That's it for me.
Just also though, quickly, Dave, with what you're about to say, think about this too. We're kind of establishing 3 with your great point there. A 3 is a bare minimum. It has to be done.
Yeah.
But Dave, also think in mind as well, 3 center backs is a bare minimum to bring in.
Yeah, I take your point, right? Before I get onto that, I just want to mention on why Dyer has to be the first out. Funny enough,
Yeah, go ahead.
it's not just because of his performances. I mean, that's a given. That's tell anyone he needs to go. It's more because of the say he actually has in around the football club. Him being a part of the leadership group. You can't have someone playing that badly, having that much of a say and that much of effect around the football club. Because being honest, the one that's benefited most from the repetitive manager change has been him. And he's got a say up in the boardroom. So for me, that's why he has to be first out the door this summer. Absolutely first. Now, on to your point, Jack, about bringing in 3. I get it's a huge ask, right? I get it. But when we talk about Perisic, and if you bring back Gil as well, I don't think you necessarily have to bring another player in that forward area. I think right now you've got to look at the defence and just say, look, that's where most of the money has to go, and a goalkeeper, right? And for me, I think you bring in Lenglet as one option. I get people may not like him and have their reservations. But for me, he's positionally way better than Eric Dyer. I think he should be starting in the centre over Eric Dyer. And for me, I also like how good Lenglet is on the ball. I think with a season under his belt, building back up his confidence, I think you'll see a better player.
He'll probably be better next season.
So bring Lenglet in here. He already knows what this club is about, right? He already knows what the Premier League's about.
Yep.
That leaves you down to bringing in 2. Go out and get them then. You know, Lenglet is a cheap option, so you still sort of
probably more of a squad player anyway, and he's probably willing to. I don't know if he's willing to accept that, but he's already come into this team having to battle his way into the team and having to sort of accept that he gets dropped here and there. And I think Longley has sort of dealt with that maybe better than other players have for the most part. And you would imagine that if he did have better center backs around him, he also would look like an even better center back, you would think, too, well, you know, with the fact he has that passing range and everything. So I'm with you, Dave, actually. I think he's a more acceptable squad player standard, I think, a long way. Yeah.
That's where I'm coming out with Clement Longley, you know, more of a squad player. I'd rather have him in them cup games again, right? And have maybe someone else playing beside him. Even if you wanted to bring in a young Alfie Darrington and put him beside him, you know, you can do that because you know what you're going to get from Longley. He's not going to sit there and go, oh, I don't want to play
slip on the ball.
I'm a spoiled baby. You know, he's going to want to play at the end of the day. But also, when it comes to Clement Longley, I think people need to understand as well. We've had huge problems down that left-hand side all season long. It's been our most costly area of the pitch. You know, he's been playing left-sided centre-back. He hasn't been helped by Perisic. You know, anytime the ball was getting to Sonny there for a period of time, it was being taken off him and coming straight back down that side. That's not going to happen as much next season. So you're also not going to see as much flaws out of Longley as you have this season. Maybe just something to think about as well.
Still on the topic of the defense here, lads. Harry Kane, I think, has finally come out and called out his buddies in the defense by the looks of things. He was, you could say, maybe starting to reveal some things after his post-match interview against the likes of Liverpool and what's could have been a draw, but ended up being a defeat. In the post-match interview, he said, first 20 minutes was unacceptable again. Feels like I'm talking about it every time I'm away from home. Interviewer kind of asks, he says, you guys go 3-0 down, but all of a sudden it's like it flipped a switch. Explain that. He says, yeah. You know, it's only so often you can come here and try to defend conceding 3 goals in 20 minutes. Should be almost impossible to do so. But look, that's where we are as a squad. It's where we are as a team at the moment. The thing that I find kind of funny about this quote is that he sort of alludes to the fact that he is tired of standing in front of the cameras and defending what is basically indefensible sort of performances. But he's also kind of referring maybe more likely to basically the people behind him, to his own defenders. He's kind of like, I can't really stand here and continue to sort of try to explain us getting smacked 3-0 inside 20 minutes when I'm not even a center back. I'm not even back there in the first place. I don't even know if I have much of an explanation anymore. And then he kind of even went on to say, which is sort of his own opinion, Michael, which is like, should be impossible actually for it to really be that case, which is him more expressing his kind of, I think, subtle opinion. And then later him saying, but look, that's where we are as a squad, where we are as a team at the moment. Then that's him sort of also kind of in a way sadly accepting that that's what we are, that this is sort of a team that can and will and is possible or capable of doing that. So I don't know. What did you make of Harry Kane's quotes? Because I think he's maybe saying more than he usually does.
The best anecdote I can find to this whole situation, right, is we all went to primary school, right? And sometimes we had those group projects, right? When you get paired with, 3 random kids from your class, right? That you aren't really, buddies with, but you have to work with them, right? And you have like a set of tasks to do, right? And let's say that you are the smartest kid of the bunch, right? And you do your part really well, right? You actually, do the task that you are given, it's all prepared. And then you have a meeting with those other 3 kids, right? And then they come in and they have done absolutely nothing, and they are relying on you to do everything, right? That's exactly the situation that we are presented with in our team, right? I know that like with the Anfield game itself, right? I know that our offense wasted like a good 3 to 4 opportunities to score the goals, right? But give me another team that scored 3 goals this season at Anfield. Real Madrid. That's it, as far as I remember.
Yeah,
That's only Real
especially
Madrid,
Premier
right?
League teams never do it.
I'm not saying like the Liverpool hasn't lost at Anfield this season, but they lost like what 1-0 or or something like this. I think they lost 1-0 to Leeds United, for example, right? But still, 3 goals we scored at Anfield, right? That's not something that's happening, ever, pretty much, right? Look at the history of our fixtures with Liverpool. Last time we scored 3 goals at Anfield was probably like in 30s or something, right? So our offense did its job, right? They scored 3 goals. The issue is the bumps at the backs conceded 4, right? That's the whole point. And honestly, if it was one time, right? One time it can happen, 2 times it can happen, 3 times, a bit bad, but it can happen, right? But when you keep conceding 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 goals a game every single week, I'm not surprised Harry Kane is tired. I'm not surprised that he is pissed off, right? He's broken. Look at his facial expressions when when I think they did it on purpose, right? They showed Mo Salah celebrating the third goal after the penalty, and then they cut to Harry Kane, and Harry Kane is standing there like,
If honestly,
mate,
Michael,
like,
he looked like a disappointed parent trying to explain the actions of
exactly.
his child
He's
or something
embarrassed.
like that. He goes like, "Listen, I mean,
He's
I've
embarrassed,
raised the
exactly,
kid,
right?
but there's only so far I can lead him. Like, I didn't even know he was capable of this. It's just like he's just like a disappointed parent, just sitting there, just like I didn't even know he was going to do this. I'm so sorry. And he also was like, I'm tired of explaining this. I'm tired of trying to say like he'll get better. Like, it's horrible to use that analogy, but it really did look like a parent that was just like tired of just like being in that position, being asked the same question. And
Yeah,
I don't know. He looked
exactly.
broken.
It's almost as if like you are a parent, you get called into kindergarten, and you walked into the kindergarten and you see your kid smothered all over the face with this shit with dog's poo, right? And then you are sitting there like, oh well, okay, I will have to clean him, I will have to apologize, I will have to make up for it. Every parent will laugh at me when I come here again, right? It
He
was
looks like a broken
exactly
man.
the same expression, right? Harry Kane was sitting there and he saw Dyer sitting on the pitch, with dog's poo all over his face, right? That he himself picked up and smeared all over his face, right? That's the state that this defense is in. That's absolutely shambolic how we concede goals over and over and over and over
Could you
again,
make a
boys.
quickly, Michael, though, of him calling out his buddies, though, like, and then we'll let Dave in here because I know he has a lot to say, but he did kind of also call out sort of his, like, Eric Dyer's his buddy. Like, Doherty is one of his buddies. Davies is one of his buddies. Like, they're all good friends. Like, this is why I was a bit shocked to sort of hear him
Hmm.
call it out in that sort of way. I'm not saying he hasn't made these sort of subtle digs before, but this one with his sort of initial facial expression, like we already were just describing in a humorous way, but in all seriousness now, like being serious, he is a guy that has stood up for these guys for the most part, I think, in the past, and doesn't really sort of throw them under the bus at any stage because they are, I think, his friends outside of football and within football. but I think he's had enough. That was like from what I got psychologically from him. Like I think, like the sportsman in him is finally coming through, and he's just like, I'm tired of like just sticking up for these guys and just like, pretending as if it's all gravy and everything. I think that's what it looked like to me. Because I don't know, Michael, if you didn't know that, like he golfs with Dyer, he golfs with Doherty. They're all very good buddies. They do cricket together. They watch sports together. They go to like different sporting events together. I think Dyer and Doherty and these guys have been seen at like, basketball games and things together. Like they're very good friends. So he's basically not only calling out his teammates, calling out his friends.
Quickly, I was just going to say, just to add to that point, and then I'll let you back in and then come back to me, Jacko. I mean, that's half of their problem. Harry Kane can afford to go on golf. He can afford to go on cricket because he's one of the best players in his position. Them other guys shouldn't be with him. They should be on the training pitch. And they might see a marked improvement.
Yeah. Like, listen, there is nothing wrong with being friends outside the pitch, right? But as you said, it's like it gets to a point if you are like the best in the class, the best in the group project, the best in your work, the best in your company, the best, the best of the bunch, right? They are trying to drag you down and and play with dog poo with you, right? But you don't want to play with dog poo. You want to be the best, right? That's the issue, right? Harry Kane, seriously, count the amount of games on like this season only that he has dragged by himself or with Sonny or with one other person. He himself has dragged this team to a victory or a draw, right? This guy is absolutely an amazing footballer and he deserves better, right? And I am 100% sure that if he was given an option and assurances that this club would behave in a proper manner, right, and actually upgrade that offense, right, and actually give him the environment to succeed, right, I'm 100% sure he would stay his whole career here, right? But if this club is going to behave like they are doing, like for many years already, I'm not surprised the guy wants to leave, right? I'm not surprised the guy is on the verge of breaking, right? Because why wouldn't you break? Look at that team, look at how they are performing. It's not good enough, right? And as you said, you can be friends, but when you are friends with somebody but you see your friend completely like shitting the bed and not being competitive,
No,
and
it's like you got assigned to that group project you were talking about earlier, Michael, but it's your best friend is one of them. And then all of a sudden, your best friend isn't carrying any part of the workload. He's, he's slacking off, and
exactly right.
you get to the final
So you have to
stages where you have to present, and you're realizing he's my best friend, but he hasn't lifted, he hasn't done a single thing here. And you probably then go up to, and let's say it fails, like end up, presentation goes, disaster, and you're kind of sitting there like, tossed up between, I just got an F and, my best friend didn't really do the workload. I think that's where Kane is like sitting at this moment in time.
Yeah, and if you are an ambitious person, you have to call your friend out, right? Even if it hurts their feeling a bit, even if even if they may be a bit like angry with you, you have to call it out, right? You have to point it out, because one thing that I've learned in life, right, is when random people that you don't know point out your mistakes, it doesn't really get to you sometimes, right? But when it's your family, it's your friend, it's someone you care about, it's someone whose opinion you respect, right? And then that person points out the mistakes that you did, points out the lack of the lack of work, the lack of commitment, etc., right? That can hurt you, right? Hurt in a sense that it can make you realize that maybe, listen, I'm maybe not good enough for the work, maybe I'm not putting enough effort, maybe I'm not doing this properly, that properly, right? That's the way it is, right? So I'm happy that he actually did it. That's one thing that I often like missed from his, but not only his, many players press conferences, that they try to be buddy with everyone, and even though like they scored 3 goals and the defense conceded 4, they don't call out the defense. It's always all about learning from the mistakes and all that other bullcrap, right? Sometimes you just need to say the home truth, right? Tell Dyer, listen, man, we scored 3 goals at Anfield and you guys conceded 4. That's not my fault that we lost that game, right? I did my job. Sonny, Kulusevski, Richarlison, we did our job, right? It's your job to keep out the goals, right? So I'm not surprised he did it. I'm happy he did it. And listen, I hope it either makes the players play better, which probably won't happen. So I hope that our ownership looks at it and they are like, damn,
Yeah.
our best player is calling out our defense.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to do something already with that defense, right?
Dave, your man Harry Kane, he's calling out his buddies. He's calling out his friends. What are you making of
Look,
it?
first of all, I don't want to see any comments or anyone come to me and say, oh, you can't do that, team environment, this, that, and the other. There is no team there. It doesn't matter. He's well within his right to do it. You know, everyone has stood up, said they want people to come out, tell the problems, this, that, and the other. But this guy has done it. Also, another guy done it. People didn't like it. And I don't care if you like it or not anymore. I actually don't. The reality is he's absolutely spot on. You're talking about a guy that scored 25 goals this season. He has done absolutely everything he can for Tottenham this season. And he's being letting down by Muppets at the back. And he's had 3-4 years of this. He's fed up. He's embarrassed now. He's at that point. And I actually like the way he done it. It's not like Hugo Lloris when Davinson Sanchez got booed, when Hugo Lloris came out and blamed everyone else but Davinson Sanchez. I'm actually glad that someone in there is actually pointing out the problems. The fans ain't the problem. The managers ain't the problem. The back line is the problem. So why not sit there and call it out for once? Are they going to respond to it? No, they're not. But the reality is, the reason why he's doing it is because he's embarrassed. He's fed up. You know, and it's stark reality. And for me, I find that concerning, if you want me to be brutally honest.
Yeah, because he tries to be positive usually, Dave, right? Like, I kind of wrote that down. He's normally a guy who tries to be positive, and it feels like he's calling it out now for what it is.
I just think it's at the point, Jack, where it's kind of like, if there's no plans to overhaul that defense this summer, he's out of here, in my opinion. He ain't sticking around. He's already accepted the reality. He's already said what the reality is. And he ain't going through another season giving his best for Tottenham, scoring 25 plus goals again, being the only one behind Haaland, you know, and look where we are in the table. He ain't going through another season of that for idiots at the back line to let him down. He ain't. So that basically tells me, if we do not sign centre-backs this summer, he sees no future with us. He doesn't see us progressing, and he's out of here, in my opinion. But as for calling out the players, he's absolutely dead right to. And I even like what Mason said after, that Kane is a leader. Leads by example, this, that, and the other. And it's about time someone stood up. This is the captain. This is what we need in the team. You know, this whole crap of covering it up, sitting there telling each other home truths. They're not home truths, they're half truths. You don't have the balls to tell each other the truth. Because if you did, that shit on the pitch wouldn't keep happening. So I'm glad that someone stood up and said it in the press. Now, I know what the reaction is going to be. They ain't going to like it, because they didn't like it when Josie done it, and they didn't like it when Conte done it. But tough shit. We're at the point now, you accept it. You're the problem. Own up to it. You know, and I'm delighted that Harry Kane has come out and done that, because it's not going to make a difference to their game. They ain't going to perform. But what it does do is it highlights the issue even further, shows he's becoming frustrated with it, and it might actually get people inside the club now to fucking listen and get him, because they didn't listen to the fat Irish gnome in the summer who predicted this was going to happen. So they might actually listen to a 25-goal man who's carried Tottenham on his back for 4 years.
Michael, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly as David said, right? Like, saying this behind the scenes, right, in the changing room or on the training pitch. First of all, we don't know if this happened, right? It's only journalists reporting it, right? So it maybe it happened, maybe it didn't happen, right? But when you do it in front of press, like on Sky Sports, on BT, or whichever, right? And people can watch it, people can see it, people, you know, can take it in. It's basically Harry Kane doing this. It's you, right? And every single one around watching, they look at that finger and they see it pointing at Dyer, Davies, you know, Sanchez, Lenglet, all that defense, right? They see the finger pointed, right? And next game, if we conceded 4 goals again, the finger will be still pointed there, right? People will look at it. Oh, hold on a minute. Harry Kane was right? This defense is absolutely shocking, right? That then my only hope is that the people's answer won't be, oh, let's go to a back four. That will solve all our issues, right? That won't solve our issues. We have to change the personnel, right? That's besides the point, right? I'm happy he pointed the finger officially, right? Officially in front of the cameras. And listen, he didn't like name drop them. Maybe he should have, right? But I understand why he didn't, right? It's like there is something like, you know, left that you need to, you know, you still can't really, like, you know, drop the names, right? But we all know what he meant. Like we
We
all
know what he
know
meant. And let me
who
give
he
you some
meant,
more
right?
juice. Let me give me some more juice for the Flames here, guys. He goes on to talk about understanding the moments in games and that you have to focus most in, and also brought up how Anfield and St. James's Park are atmospheres that you need to know how to deal with the pressure. He's basically also as well, he said earlier, 3 goals inside 20 minutes should be almost impossible. He then goes on to talk about how this team doesn't really understand moments and understand how to go into games and understand that these games will have an intense atmosphere. Seems to also be questioning their mentality as well, which is also quite
Look,
interesting. He's not just questioning their skill, he's questioning their mentality.
the key thing as well is he mentions away from home, right? Well, I mean, this has been a reality for years. Look at all of our cup defeats and cup exits, most of them away from home. Look at the amount of goals we conceded away from home this season. Last season, away from home was our biggest problem as well. Going away from home is a huge problem. But look, are we surprised? You know, Kane's talking about Anfield and all. Let's talk about Ennis Murray. Let's talk about Vitesse. Let's talk about Sheffield United. Not exactly the most intimidating places to go. Not exactly the most boisterous places to go. You can't handle the pressure there. You had players coming out after the Vitesse game, blaming the pitch, same pitch for both sides, blaming the away atmosphere. What do you want? Send out a message to the home fans, please be quiet so we can concentrate before you go into the stadium. You know, they blame the referee. I mean, it's absolutely absurd. Of course, they're not going to handle Anfield or anything like that when these guys can't even handle playing part-time plumbers. At the end of the day, it's not good enough. What Harry Kane should have actually followed up and said is, someone get me a fluorescent jacket, a UV light, stick it on Dyer because he's always pointing and ranting and raving, stick him on an airport runway and get him to guide in the planes. That's what he's fucking good at.
Get all the pointers on the runway. Get all the pointers on the tarmac. I exactly agree with that, Dave. Exactly right. Because especially as well, after they make mistakes, they love to point at someone else. That's for sure. They love to point at someone else after making a mistake. But Michael, any kind of sort of final thoughts here, maybe on Harry Kane calling out the defense? Because what I would say is, I'm going to still keep the faith that Harry Kane might be sticking through actually this summer. But I think going into the summer, not too sure whether, Eric Dyer is going to be invited onto, sort of the summer vacation, in the Mediterranean anywhere.
I think Singapore for the game against
time. By the sounds of it, Harry Kane's going to be taking his time away from these guys, and he's going to be needing, some nice sort of relaxation from just the likes of football, and maybe even just staying away from football in general with how many goals he's seen go in the back of the net.
Yeah, so like with Harry Kane, right? I still stand by my point. I don't think he will move this summer, and that's not only because of like leaving, not accepting the bid or whatever, right? I think due to his personal reasons, I don't think he will move because his wife will be like in 5th month of pregnancy during the summer, 5th, 6th month, right? Because I think they posted like in February that they are expecting a 4th child, right? So with how
it's not yours, Michael. You seem to know the dates too well there.
I've just seen an Instagram post, right? And like, listen, we all know that how funny may it sound, he is a family man, right? He cares the most about the well-being of his wife and his kids, right? So him moving to Manchester, right? Assuming the United is the most likely destination for him, right, to moving to Manchester with, expecting a new kid, moving the wife, in pregnant wife with 3 young kids, right, etc. I don't think it really suits. And on top of that, you add the issue of, Levy won't probably accept 70-80 million for it. He will want 100, right? Whether United will want to spend that, that's a different thing, right? So I don't think he will move this summer. But I kid you not, if we don't behave like a proper club this summer, he is leaving guaranteed next summer, right? The next summer, after the next season, he is guaranteed to move on a free. Like, there is no point in this guy staying, right? And I'm not the guy to say I want him to leave. I don't want him to leave. I want him to stay here, finish his career here, be a legend for us. I want to watch every single minute of that guy wearing a white shirt with a cock on his chest, right? That's my priority. I love this guy. I want him to be here, right? But I won't be surprised if if we screw about again, like we can do, year in, year out. You know, there is plenty of examples, right? If we don't do a proper rebuild of that defense, if we don't support the squad, if we don't bring in proper signings, I'm guaranteeing you he won't be waiting for the next summer, right? As soon as the transfer window hits next summer, he will be out of here, right? That's 100% guarantee for me. So yeah, I'm happy he's calling out the issues, right? So because maybe like listen, sorry, Jaco, quickly I finish, right? Daniel Levy is known to have good relationships with players, right? And he also has a good relationship with Harry Kane. Maybe he doesn't really trust some of the, stuff that he has, some scouts or whatever, right? Or analysts or whatever, right? But he definitely has a good relationship with Harry Kane. And if Harry Kane himself tells Daniel, listen, this defense is shit. I cannot work with this draws, right? Give me a proper defender behind me that I will win you an FA Cup and shut up all the fans, right? That's basically how the conversation can go between those two, right? And if Daniel Levy doesn't listen to that, then Harry, go have a career somewhere else, right? I like in that case, if we still screw about this summer and don't act like a proper club, I'm not surprised he's on the verge of breaking. I'm not surprised he wants to leave if we don't act like a proper club, right?
I'm liking this first name basis conversation between Harry and Daniel here. They might as well sign a coys, afterwards.
Honestly, this whole Daniel thing
Coys
is
Daniel.
embarrassed. Next thing we'll be calling him Dano or Danny. You know what I mean? Proper nicknames here, and why not?
But I think we'll end it there. Michael, thank you, my friend. Well done.
Pleasure speaking with you, boys, as always.
Well, appreciate you coming on. And thanks for doing a bit of squad management, a bit of squad tidying. And I imagine some stage, towards the summer as well, we'll probably have you again, to do it, because maybe some more.
Please. I will prepare.
We'll probably have more to work with, but this is sort of right, the initial rumblings, the initial sort of workings of it. So everybody, we hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't already, smash that like button. Please get down in the comments. Please thank Michael for his time, and as well for giving up his sort of day as well to speak with us and just sort of deal with this mess of a football club as well, because as much as it is good therapy, it's also not easy. It's not easy. Everybody, I think we'll leave it there.
Let's keep the record going. We've had 100 likes on all of our streams for quite some time, so keep it going and get that 100.
Everybody will be seeing you. Come on, you Spurs. In the Harris Army, we trust.
Everywhere we go.